Hey folks, Cool18 here, and welcome to Let's Try Le Havre, the Inland Port. This is a board game that is designed by Hugh Rosenberg, the same person who is famous for making things like Agricola, the Caverna, and of course Le Havre itself. Le Havre is I think it's like a 2 to 7 player worker placement board game. But just like with Agricola, All Creatures Great and Small, Le Havre Inland Port is a 2-player game with a similar theme to the base Le Havre, but a different mechanic. It is not a worker placement game. It's actually a really fun sort of building/economic game over here. And it does have a digital version. I believe it's available for a variety of mobile devices, but I'm playing the version on Steam. Now, I have not tested the multiplayer in any way. I can also not necessarily say if the AI is super brilliant or not. I've just played a handful of games of this, but it is fairly fun to play. And you can play multiplayer. There's a ranking system if you want to do that with, sort of random matchmaking. You can play games against your Steam friends as well. I'm just going to play a local game over here, and I guess I'll play against the hardest AI. It'd be a little bit disappointing to lose, but there you have it. I believe it's got asynchronous multiplayer as well, so you can take your turn and just say end, and they'll send an alert to your opponent. They'll play their turn, and Steam will alert you. You can actually enable the Steam alerts for when you've got turns available, which is really nice to say. Sort of really reminiscent to the old sort of play-by-email kind of systems. So here's the setup here in the digital version of Le Havre. Basically, the system is this. Over down at the bottom left, you can see my current resources. I have 3 coins, or francs, as they call them in the game, and I have resources. I have wood, grain, fish, and clay over here. And these resources are actually placed on this really interesting resource board that we're going to have to talk about relatively soon. You can see there are also 5 zones up here, and they're numbered 0, 2, 3, 4, and 4+, which will make a lot of sense once we get started. But basically, the first thing I'm going to be doing is building a building. These are the buildings that are available in round 1. At the top, there's a cost. This would cost 1 wood, 2 clay. This would be 2 wood. This would cost me 3 francs, 1 franc, and this just costs 2 clay. The number in the top left corner is actually how many victory points each one of these buildings are worth at the end of the game, and ultimately the person with the most victory points wins. Most of your points will come from your buildings owned. You also get money for any francs you have left over in your bank account at the end. In addition to that, there are some buildings with variable victory points that may be worth, say, 1 point for every clay that you have in your stockpile, for example. So you can earn points in a few different ways, but mostly it is about winning that way. So for my first play, I'm going to go ahead and I don't know if there's like a super strong optimal move or not to min-max your first early turn. It is worth noting in the first round here, there's a total of 3 actions, and I am player 1, which means I'm actually going to take an action, my opponent will take an action, then I will take the final action. Whoever is the first player of a round does get the bonus action. It's quite nice to be player 1 early on in the game, because you do get to take, the extra action in the first turn, get yourself set up. On the other hand, it means your opponent will get the extra action in the final round of the game, which can be perhaps more powerful or not, depends on how things have gone. So, given the resources that I've got, I'm going to go ahead, and I suppose what I'll do is I'll just start by building the thing that is worth the most victory points, which is going to be the hardware store over here. I won't then have any material with which I could buy any of the other things that need either clay or wood, but I will have money left over. Maybe I can buy the clay mound, or if not, at least I'll be able to build the farmland, because I don't know what my opponent will do. So I'm going to purchase the hardware store here. Now, here's the interesting thing. At this point, I have to pay for the hardware store. It costs 1 wood and 2 clay, and you can see the amounts that I have down here, but there's actually a bit of an interface here to pay for it, because when you pay for your material, you can only pay by moving your token. So here's my clay token here. I can only move it left or down and to the left as part of my payment movement, which is really interesting, because if, let's say I currently had 7 clay, right? And I was trying to pay for this hardware store, which costs 2 clay. I can move left from 7 to a 6 to pay for 1. I still need to pay for 1 more. Well, I can no longer move left because I'm actually on the left edge of my screen. It doesn't wrap around in any way. So then I would actually have to move downwards, which would cost me 3 total. So I would have paid 4 clay for this hardware store. Obviously, in this situation, the best thing, if I was at 7, is I would just move down, pay 3 clay. I would still be overpaying by 1, but it wouldn't be too bad. So a big part of the dynamic of the game is trying to organize where in your warehouse, in your stockpile here, your resources are, both for payment as well as for buildings that increase your resources. This hardware store, when I've got it built, you can use the hardware store to move either your wood token or your clay token some tiles to the right. We're going to talk about that in a moment. So hardware store moves these tokens always to a right. And again, it doesn't wrap around. So if you hit the right edge, you're stuck there. However, other buildings later on will move tokens up and to the left, up and to the right, and so on and so forth. So you can really sort of move around in very interesting ways on your resource board. And that's one of the big parts of the game. In any case, right now it's quite simple. So my hardware store, I'm going to take my clay token, I'm going to move it to the left, move it to the left again, and then my wood token, I'm going to move it to the left. That pays for my hardware store. That goes in row 0 over here. Now, as I said, when you activate a building, it'll give you something. Okay, so my opponent has purchased the wood company. It cost him 2 clay, and he puts it in there. Now, normally, and this doesn't apply in round 1, but you're going to be able to activate these buildings and get their bonuses. But these buildings can't be used right now because they're in the 0 row. The 0 here tells you how many times, if I were to activate, say, the wood company, how many squares to the right I would move my wood token. Well, this is 0, which is why these things are blank. And it's worth noting that it doesn't matter who owns the building. Anyone can activate any building. But if the building's owned by your opponent, you have to pay them a coin, a franc, to use their building. So that it's interesting in that it's less about, you're not as interested about purchasing buildings literally based on what they do, as much as trying to optimize your victory points and your resource expenditure. So here I'm going to have to make a decision as to what I'm going to purchase next. I could buy the farmland, which is cheaper. It's only worth 4 victory points, but it would leave me some more coins for next turn. Or I could buy the clay mound here. I'm going to go ahead and use all my resources by building the clay mound. It's going to cost me 3 coin. There we go. And that is going to be the end of my turn. Now it's a new day, so we get more cards down. Now, these cards are in sort of preset blocks over here. He's going to purchase the kiln. Notice the direction of the arrow on the kiln. This takes your clay and moves it up and to the left, which only works if your clay marker isn't, say, on the rightmost edge over here. So when you use it, you're going to want to time that appropriately. Not only that, so all the buildings we built last round moved over to the right. So now if I activate one of these, they're on the 2 marker. That means I will get to activate any of these buildings that activate, I will get to activate them twice. If next turn, and when you activate a building, it goes back to the 0 row. If we don't use a building, next turn it's going to move to the 3. Then it's going to move to the 4. If I activate the building when it's on the 4, I get to use its benefit 4 times, and then it goes to the 0 over here. The 4 plus row still only activates the building 4 times, but also gives you a coin. If something is in the 4 plus row and we move to the next day, because that building can't move anymore to the right, you are forced to sell that building for half of its value. So that tends to be a pretty bad thing. So now I have to decide. I've only got one action here. My opponent had the first action and will have another action after me. What do I want to use my action to do? I could spend 1 clay to purchase the smokehouse, which is also worth 8 victory points. I could activate one of these buildings over here. One of the things that might be worth doing is I can peek to see what's coming in the next round. So we're currently in round 2, or day 2. Next round is day 3 of a maximum day of 12. So these are the buildings that are going to show up next turn. We're going to get a bakehouse and a wood trader. And so you can use that to decide, how do I want to save my resources? Like if I really want to be able to build the bakehouse for the victory points of 10, I need to make sure I end up with 2 clay, which I could do from activating the clay mound. But next turn, I actually will be able to build the wood trader, which isn't too shabby. Wood trader is interesting. You activate it. When you activate it, you pay 1 coin and 2 food. Both fish and grain count as food, and it moves your wood token up 1 row, which is quite nice. Since I will be able to build a wood trader regardless, I'm not too worried about accruing clay right now, so I don't think I'll be activating any of these buildings. I'll probably wait till they get to the 3 and do that. So I think it's probably fine for me to build the smokehouse. It's going to use 1 clay, but again, I don't have to worry about saving a clay right now, and that's going to be worth 8 victory points, so that sounds swell. So I'm going to go ahead and move my clay over by 1, build the smokehouse. Smokehouse moves the fish token up and to the left, which is effectively adding +2 fish, I think, from any position when you use it. All right, my opponent purchased the hardware store, which when you activate it, you choose whether it's going to give you wood and clay, and you don't get to like mix and match. If I activate this on the 2, I will either get 2 wood or 2 clay. I don't get to take 1 of each. All right, so the next round is here. So now I have to make, now the decisions get really interesting. So I'm first player, so I'm going to get to act twice this round. My opponent will get to act once. And the question is, what do I think my opponent will do? And is it going to block me? Is it going to annoy me? My opponent has no clay. He does have enough wood, so there's a chance he could either buy the wood trader or the grocery store. Alternatively, he could decide to start activating these locations for the resources. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase the wood trader for the victory points, and then he might buy the grocery store or one of or the farmland, I suppose. He can't buy the farm or the bakehouse. Or what I could just do is I could plan on activating both the Wood Company and the Clay Mound and hoping that my opponent doesn't do one of those, and next round I'll have plenty of resources. But I think it's probably a good idea for me to just bank a victory point, or 8 victory points from purchasing the Wood Trader over here, and then on my second action I'm just going to activate one of these buildings a trio of times. Okay, my opponent activated the Clay Mound. Worth noting that belonged to me, so I actually got a coin there. The Clay Mound activates the same number of times as the tile, plus a bonus one over here. That only happens one time. But so it moved the clay for him 3 times to the right from being in the 3 square, plus an additional time from that effect. The Clay Mound's actually quite good, but it gave me a coin. I will activate the Wood Company, I suppose, because that's all that's left. I could buy the farmland, but it's only worth 4 victory points. It's like a really nice building to activate, but it's not that potent to own. So I think I'll be better off if I just activate the Wood Company now. Especially since I'm not first player next turn, so I won't get a crack at activating on the 4. So this will give me a few resources to spend. So we're going to move, I pay him a coin, move my wood 3 times over to the right, and there we go. That's going to be the end of the day, so new day has come in. Marketplace is quite interesting. Okay, what's Pascal going to do? He's going to activate the kiln, moving diagonally and getting a ton of clay from that action. Very, very, very powerful. I could get a ton of fish from activating the smokehouse, which is very tempting. I'm going to do that and maybe buy the marketplace on my next action. So you pay for it with 6 food, either fish or grain or some combination. And when you activate the marketplace, you actually get to activate it. You can activate it for anything. And unlike the hardware store where you choose wood or clay, for every activation in the marketplace, let's say you get to activate it 4 times, on each of those activations you get to choose what gets added. It's a great building to have in the game, but again, it doesn't really matter who owns what, except for the victory points, because anyone can use this. Although if I suspect my opponent might use the marketplace a lot, it might earn me a few extra coins. So I'm going to go ahead and activate the smokehouse, because my fish is currently in a really good position to do that. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Activate, yep, for 3. So it's going to move the fish diagonally up by 3. So that actually gave me 6 extra fish, which is pretty good. So what's Pascal going to do? He's going to purchase the farm, worth 12 victory points, very strong move. You can see the current victory points over here. He's currently at 32, I'm at 35, but there's a lot of gameplay left. So I think it is also tempting to activate the hardware store, which my opponent may decide to do and get a bunch of wood. With the amount of clay he's got, he'd be in a good position to spend a lot of stuff. That being said, actually that's very interesting, because he can't purchase the marketplace. And I'm going to be first player next turn. So is there a good thing I could do to block him? On his turn, he could buy the bakehouse. Actually, which is possibly, I was going to say probably and change it to possibly what he's going to do, worth 10 points. If he doesn't activate the hardware store, I can do that next turn and get 4 points worth of stuff, which should be alright. Because, I mean, I can't really block him. No matter what, he's going to have a good action. Even if I activate the hardware store, he can buy the bakehouse, he could buy the restaurant. He could buy the farmland. I'm most thinking he's probably going to buy the bakehouse or activate the hardware store. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy the marketplace. And expect he'll probably buy the bakehouse, and then I'll be able to activate the hardware store for 4 on my turn, which may or may not be the best move. I don't know. But we're going to do that. So I'm going to pay for it using fish, and I'm just going to move my fish down twice, which is going to be 6 food. There we are. All right, so I'm ahead on victory points, but there's a lot of game left, and he's got a lot of resources. Okay, he did purchase the bakehouse. New day has come in. I have very few resources. All right, I have 3 turns now. The amount of actions do increase. By the end, it's going to be a total of 9 actions. The first player is going to go 5 times, and the second player is going to go 4 times. And you can see these lists can get quite big over here. This fish market is worth a whopping 16 points. Although he cannot steal it from me. He doesn't have enough wood to purchase the fish market right now. Or the grocery store, which is nice. He can get the restaurant or sawmill, but I can't, so it's kind of a moot thing. So what is the best action for me to do? If I'm looking to activate for clay, I could just activate the clay mound. Either one of these is going to give me 4 clay, because the clay mound does give you a little bit of extra resources. And they're both owned by me, so most likely he's just going to do that. He potentially might grab the sawmill in his turn, which would be fine. Here's what I'm thinking. I think I'm going to activate the clay mound, because if he buys the sawmill, he won't be able to really buy anything else, really. I can then safely activate the hardware store, get the bonus from that for wood, so then I'll have lots of clay and wood, and then on my final action, I'll be able to pick up the fish market, which will still be on the table. I think that's probably okay. There's not like a kiln ready to go or anything, right? No. There's kilns up here, but that's not a really good activation. It would be nice for next round to be able to activate the kiln for a bunch. And right now, my clay is over here, which means I can't use the clay in a very effective way. So I would feel very good if I could guarantee that my clay token was in a really good place to kiln next turn, because that'll give me a really interesting option. So what are you going to do? Sawmill? You did buy the sawmill, as expected. Means you're not in a good place to kiln, which is interesting. So he can't really buy anything at all. He could purchase the farmland, that's it. Almost certainly he's going to be looking to activate something, so I want to go and deny him the activation of the hardware store. So I'm going to activate the hardware store for wood. There we go. So he'll have to wood company probably. Oh, he used the smokehouse to get a bunch of fish. Only activated twice because it was only in this row, but, you know, it's still not a bad move. So this is the last action of the turn. He will be starting next turn, which actually means I don't actually have to worry about rushing any of these, which is interesting to consider, because he's gonna start next turn, but he won't have enough for the fish market, for example. So I could consider purchasing the fish market next turn. Because I'm locked in there. Same with the restaurant. Like, again, at the start of next turn, he's not going to be able to buy anything except the farmland. So he'll almost certainly be forced to activate one of these locations, which means I could decide to block one. The wood trader. So to activate the wood trader, per activation, and you get to choose for these whether how many times activate. I could activate it up to 3 because it's in the 3, but I don't actually have 6 food. I could at most activate it twice. He's got enough food for a triple activation. Or no, actually a quad activation on his turn. Most likely he will probably activate the wood trader on his turn for a lot, because he can activate up to 4 times over here. And it moves the wood token upwards, so 3 wood per. Hey Gilbert, how's it going? That is tough. Am I concerned about really blocking his ability to wood hard? Actually, he's not going to have coins. Never mind. He's got lots of food, but he doesn't have the coins for the wood trader. Heck, he'd even have to pay me to activate that, so that's fine. Do I want to block the wood company? Because that's probably what he'll do for 4. Obviously, it would cost me a coin to use it, but that would be okay. I think that's probably the best move for me to wood company on this turn. That would put my wood token on the far left corner, or far right corner, but that's okay. I wouldn't be in a good position to activate the wood trader after that, but I'm going to be spending some wood, so then we'll be okay. Yeah, I think that's probably okay. It's interesting, right? You're trying to see what moves you can make versus what your opponent can do. So on my opponent's first turn, oh, he could buy the church square. That's true. I didn't actually look to see what was coming up next turn, which is a very good move. That's okay. If he does that, no, he's going to activate the clay mound. So it only activated for a ×2. He got the bonus one, but that's interesting. Is there something I want to rush to activate? If I did activate the farm, so this would actually give me 2 food effectively, because it moves up twice and then moves backwards once. Well, not 2 food. It would move diagonally 3 times. So I would end up on the 9 food tile, which would put me in a good position to build a church square. Still, I think what I'm most interested in is building or buying the fish market, and then potentially fish trading, potentially at that point activating the farm or the kiln or something like that. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to get the fish market. Gilbert, why are you being such a pain in the ass? See this? You let him downstairs, and he decides to be a big jerk face. All right. That's good. Next turn. So what is he going to do? He's going to activate the wood company. Interesting. Very interesting. So what can he buy? He could buy the building firm, which is worth a lot of points. And it's good to pick these up, but are there good opportunities to really take like a good action here? Both the farm and the kiln would be really effective. Now, the farm would be even better next here. Now, I'm going to be acting first next round, which means I could get a turbo farm activation. I could also use the marketplace right now for a lot of flexibility. But what's nice is I could go farm and then bakehouse and have a ridiculous amount of food. Or I could build a building firm. Buy the building firm, which would stop him from grabbing that. It's tough, that's 16 victory points, but this is a lot of resources. Now, I guess the question being, with all that food, what can I do? Well, I could buy the church square, although he can now. What's coming up next turn? Is there anything... Oh, the weekly market is worth a bunch of victory points. And that's not too shabby. Although, you can see the business office is worth freaking 30 victory points. I need 7 food and 5 clay for that. Well, if I were to kill now, I'd put myself in a good position to make sure that happens. You know what? Let's go ahead and kill now. I don't want him to do it. This does give him the option of activating the wood trader and get 2 activations out of it because of the money. No, he'd still only get 1 because I own it. All right, he's purchasing the building form, which is a very strong move. Can't blame him for that. Okay, new turn comes in. I don't have any money. It would actually be nice to do a turbo wood trader activation. And actually, if I don't activate it, it's going to be 4 sold here. Maybe it didn't give that quite enough think. Because I don't have any money for the activation. I can get a lot of food. But there's no way currently to get money. I think I might be forced selling the wood trader here, which makes me unhappy. Because you only get half the value back. Still, it's only losing 4 victory points. It's not the end of the world, but I think I should have considered it a little bit better. Oh, I was misreading the board. Business office doesn't come in right away either, so double mistake. Mason's Guild is worth 20 points and is quite nice. And if we got the weekly market, if we'd had it out sooner, we would be able to do that. Looks, there's a lot of food-based buildings here. It would be nice to get some of that locked in. Okay, I think this is going to be a great time. I'm going to activate the farm. It actually gives you this is going to give us a total of 9 extra grain, which is a huge activation. And I do have to pay a coin to use it. But that's a lot of grain. We're also really set up for a turbo bakehouse turn, if I want to do that. Oh, he's activating the building firm that's not very highly leveled up, which is interesting. I don't have a coin for the bakehouse. That's true. Both the restaurant and the grocery store are good for getting coins, but they're not out right now. So yeah, I still can't really do that. I should probably just play something that'll give me food. Now, the bakehouse, I have to make sure, because it can activate, if not this turn, maybe next turn I can pull it off, because you actually get a coin from playing something in this round, in this column, which is something to consider for the wood trader, but it can move up to 4 times, so I want to make sure I've got up to 4 times on the edge over here. Yeah, so this column would be bad. Going straight down is fine, 1, 2, 3, that would be worth 9. I could buy the church with just the grain, spending 9 grain, but I'd still be in a good place to bakehouse. Or I could actually get the weekly market by spending 9, and then, you know what, maybe we'll do that. Alright, let's pick up the weekly market. So we're going to go in grain. I don't want to go to the left with the grain, it's very important. So 1, 2, 3, and then pay the last one with a fish. Purchase that, that's 16 victory points. And I'm still in a good place to bakehouse if, I was going to say, if he activated one of my buildings, then I'd have money to activate the bakehouse. But he did not. I could buy the Mason's Guild for a lot of points. I could also activate the marketplace and move anything I want to the right, which is very nice and very flexible. But I think I'm just going to grab the Mason's Guild. So we're going to go down by 1, and for wood, we're going to go a whole bunch to the left. There we go. So he's going to get an action, and I'm going to be the last person to take a bonus action. He's activating the hardware store for some clay, which was my building, which means now I could go and activate his bakehouse. I think the wood trader is going to have to go away. I could buy the restaurant. I don't think that's worthwhile. Now, buying the bakehouse, or activating the bakehouse right now, doesn't actually help that much. Well, it gives me more food. Never mind, so I could buy the church square next turn. So I think that is a really good option. So we're going to do that. It gives me a ton of food. Basically, that was worth 8, because each diagonal move up and to the left is worth 2. And there you go. My wood trader is 4 sold. Does go back down to the track here. Which actually means I just have to spend 1 wood to get it back. And actually sort of going up in victory points overall. But it costs me an action, which is very, very, very valuable. Okay. So let's see. I'm thinking I might grab the church square before he gets a chance. Paying for it would be awkward. I'd basically be paying 9 worth of food, probably all out of wheat. And then maybe my next 2 actions could be marketplace to move the fish to the right, and then smokehouse to move it up. There's an option. Well, I'm going to grab the church square anyway for the victory points. I think that's going to be okay. And yeah, I'm overpaying by 1, but it's not the end of the world. So 1, 2... yeah, I guess I'll just finish it off with the wheat. That's okay. I don't think it makes much of a difference one way or the other. So he's buying the shipping line, worth 18 victory points, and you can activate it to get a lot of money depending on where things are. So because I don't want to sell the marketplace, I definitely want to activate it. And I think it makes sense to activate it for fish so that I can potentially smokehouse. I mean, I do get to choose with every tick, but the smokehouse would move up and to the left 4 times, so I need to make sure that the fish is at least that far if I want to get the maxed out value out of it. I did get a coin from activating the marketplace in the 4+ slot, though, so that's nice. So he activates a low-level building firm. So for my last action, I could buy some of these, but none of these are particularly strong. It would actually be nice to get more wood, so I could buy the business office next turn. I do actually get to start. Although he's got enough resources, he could just buy the business office, which I suspect is what's going to happen. Oh, sorry, he doesn't get to start, he gets to finish. As his last action, he could buy the business office. I get to start, which means I could use the smokehouse at the start of my next turn for the 4+ bonus, which is nice. Let's see, what actually comes next round? We've got the guild hall, so I need wood for that, and the pier, which is amazing, but needs a crap ton of money. And immediately, there's no... We can get a bunch of money from the weekly market. Okay, you know what? Pier's worth a lot of points. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to smokehouse, and then next turn what I can do is sell fish with the weekly market, and then purchase that building. Hopefully that's okay. I don't know. Hey, buddy. How's it going, man? Yeah? You're just bored, huh? I know how it is. Don't worry. You'll get lots of pets. I'm almost done this game. We're almost done. We only got 3 days left to go. All right, so everything's moving over this way. Yeah, I'd love the pier. It's going to see a lot of use, too, because it's very flexible. Although it comes late in the game. It only can do 1 really big activation or a couple of modest ones. So, I think my idea here was, yeah, the weekly market. Now, this I choose... I have to choose first. I can't mix and match either fish or grain. I move it straight downwards that number of times to get a bunch of gold coins. So I'm going to get 3 activations. So I'm going to be moving fish 3 times. You can play with that, but I'm going to choose fish, move it down 3 notches, and get 4 coins for each one, which is quite a bit of money, and those are worth victory points, right? Not only do you use them to buy things, like what I'm going to do here, but they're worth victory points in and of themselves. So I'm going to pick up the pier, because I'm net gaining 12 victory points from that action, which isn't too shabby. Okay, he's bought the guild hall, which is quite cool. What the rainbow arrow is here, it's for every activation you choose a resource. You can't choose the same resource twice. So if you got the guild hall all the way to the 4 or 4+, you'd use it 4 times and each one choose a different resource. So you advance each one of your 4 resources up and to the right, if that were possible, which is quite nice. Okay, these are really low value buildings, but that's still not too shabby. I would like more wood, potentially. Actually, 1 wood is going to be enough for the fish factory. And I could use the fish market to set up really nicely. Do I start next turn? No. He starts. He doesn't have the resources to buy the fish factory right now. That would be a big win. So this is the first dock building here. At the end of the game, that gives you 1 victory point for every fish in your stockpile. So if I got lots of fish in the stockpile by making sure to, say, activate the fish market, and maybe even the smokehouse later on, that could be worth a lot of victory points. Additionally, later on, there is the dock building over here, which is worth 10 victory points for every anchor building you have. There are 4 anchor buildings in total, 1 for each resource. So, you know, if you can grab 3 and the dock, that's amazing. Even 2 in the dock is pretty good. But more importantly, if you grab 2 of the anchor buildings, you're going to want to make sure to have lots of those resources. So I'm good on clay. I'm not feeling pressure to activate the clay mound. He probably will here, but I don't think blocking him is the right way to go. I don't think these buildings are valuable enough to really like stress about it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quad activation of the fish market here. Get lots of fish going on. It does cost me the 4 gold, but gets us up to 22 fish. Obviously, I can't smokehouse on a follow-up because the spacing's not good for it, but it means I can spend fish by doing something potentially and open up a few different options. All right, this is the final turn of the round. The Mason Guild would get a triple activation, but only 2 of my things can move up and to the left, so that's not a very strong move. The Sawmill, neither. The farm move is pretty good. Or I could buy just some low-level building for some victory points, as long as I'm... The problem is, I do kind of need the wood. I wish I was in a better place for that. I'm wondering about a hardware store activation. And maybe next turn I can sawmill to really generate a bunch of wood for the end. I think we're going to have to do that. Okay. We're going to activate you for wood. So, it's only 3, but it's not too bad. Okay. New day. And I'm first player in this round, right? And he's going to be first player in the final round? I think that's true. Oh, no, he's first player here, and I'll be first player. Oh, it's only round 10. Okay, my bad. Although we are now hitting the rounds where everyone's got 5 actions per turn. So he purchased the fish factory, which actually makes me kind of sad. So now I've got a bunch of fish, but I'm not going to need it for victory points. But that's okay, because it means I will be able to probably take another good round of selling it for money from the next weekly market. Now, the business office, I could activate 3 times, and I'd move 3 different resources down and to the left, earning 5 victory points each time. I can't do that right now. I can only move 2, so that's no good. I'd rather have to move my wood up 1 or move my wheat to the right 1 to really activate it. Clay-wise, I think the craftsman yard is going to be fine. It's worth 16 victory points, which is quite nice. It will let me move my fish down, which is what I'm going to do to pay for it. It'd be nice to get the town hall. It's worth a lot, but I'm quite far from being able to execute that. Yeah, let's start with this. Not that he's in a position to buy it. He's actually not in a position to do much. He needs resources. He might decide to activate the clay mound. The thing is, do I need more clay? Well, I could buy the brick factory and maybe set up for some points there. I need money for the dock. The Pont de Normandie is actually quite hard to get. It's a lot of money, and it may not be worth making a run for. The zoo is worth a lot of points if you just trade food, and I do have that. And in fact, if I activate the farm, I'm going to be in a good position for lots and lots of food to pick up the zoo, which is worth a lot, especially if I'm also buying the craftsman yard. So I think that's what I'm going to do. He can't get the craftsman yard right now. I think I'm going to activate the farm and block him from doing that. So I'm going to have lots of food. I can get zoos. I can get the craftsman yard. Okay, he activated the clay mound, kind of as expected. Did give me a coin, though, so that's a thing. All right, I've got 3 actions left. He's got 3 actions left. What are we looking to do? I'm almost in the position where I could get max value out of the Masons Guild. Not quite, because right now the fish is no good. He might choose to activate it. He could actually get max value out of the Masons Guild. Well, I'm going to buy the craftsman yard. If he doesn't use the Masons Guild, I will use it on my turn. Because what I'm going to do here is just drop the fish down. I think just straight down. Like that. There we go. Pay for that. And go. So what are you going to do? You are going to activate the kiln. You want lots of clay. All right, we may have to be very careful about blocking that brick house. All right, so the Masons Guild activation would be quite nice right now because it'll give me lots of resources to open up maybe a few options. It's going to give me 2 of everything. So that seems okay. So you can't activate the same one twice because of the rainbow thing, so we're just going to activate everything 1 time. And effectively gain 2 each. He's going to activate the shipping line, getting a ton of money. Alright. I could get a ton of wood from activating the sawmill. Now, that's not terrible. I actually have... You know what? I think that's what it's going to do, because we can get the town hall here, at the very least, if I got a bunch of wood. It's going to give him a coin. No, I think that's worth doing. Did I only get 3 out of there? I might have only gotten 3 out of there, but still. He's activating the guild hall and moving some things over. But I think it was only 2 activations there. Okay, this is my final turn going first. So he can't get the zoo, so I don't have to worry about rushing that. The Pont de Normandie is way out of range. Actually, and he can't get the town hall. I think the first thing I have to do, I don't think I'm worried about him bakehousing, is I think I have to get the grain silo. So we're gonna... Oh, that's really annoying. You see this? I'm gonna be paying 3 brick. Which... Oh, shit. Can I change my mind? I don't think I can anymore. I need to cancel this. Because I'm like, 1 brick is fine. I can still buy the town hall. Luckily, unless he gets wood, he's not going to be able to do it. That is actually really disappointing that I can't cancel this at this point. I was just looking at my total values, not positioning. What are you going to do? You're activating the business office, which is going to give you a bunch of money. You actually are 1 short of getting the pont. That's interesting. Okay, the problem is now I can't town hall. I'm still not worrying about him zooing, so... I think what I would like to do is, can I get a couple of brick? Well, I can do it with a marketplace activation, which is probably... So this would give me 4 of anything. So I'd be getting 2 brick, and then what else? Does it really matter? Oh, I would love a weekly market activation, too. That's a lot of money. But I think the thing to do is to activate the building firm, which will give me a total of 6 resources. So let's do that. There we go. It's nice when your tokens are in the middle because it gives you maximum mobility to pay for things. So he did get the Pont de Normandie, which is worth a lot of points. And in fact, I'm currently getting crushed. But I think that's going to change soon. So let's build the town hall. So we need 4 of each. So we do it that way. Very good. 26 points. Kind of getting back in the game. Oh, he activated the farm for a bunch of grain. Perhaps as a bit of a block towards me. Now, this is interesting. I wonder if, like, because if no one activates the bakehouse, it goes away. It is his, but I get a coin for activating this place. It's not an optimal... Well, okay, I got 2 more turns. Oh, this works out relatively... Well, no, I really need to get my grain over by 1 to get maximum use out of that. 2 turns. Let's see. He can't zoo this turn. So if I were to marketplace and make sure to move my grain a little bit, in addition to whatever else I'm going on. Oh, why don't I just Church Square? Actually, that still doesn't put me in a good place to use the bakehouse. But maybe... So I'm just wondering, if he doesn't buy the zoo this turn, right? Oh, no, the bakehouse goes away. Because even moving the grain to the right doesn't work out. I don't think there's a good way for me to use the bakehouse. Do I want to meet weekly market? I think I'm going to do that next round. I have to choose 1 resource. So if I buy the zoo, I think I'll pay for it completely out of fish, and then next round I'll weekly market 4 times for a bunch of points. All right, let's do that. So the fish, we're going to go... well, I can't pay for it completely with the fish, but that's okay. No, we're going to be fine. So I'll pay for it as much with the fish as possible, switch over to the grain. Well, I could go to the left with the fish, but I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go down once with the grain, and 1 more time. No, never mind. Let's trade in the fish. There we go. Because I want to be able to move the grain down 4 times next turn for a big weekly market, earning me 16 coins. We are tied on victory points right now. This is my last action. I could buy some of these. They're not worth huge points. Church Square, Marketplace. Well, I'm not smokehousing, obviously. The hardware store is not a big deal. What am I going to look to buy next turn? I might need to buy the dock to block him. Although I don't have any cash right now. Neither does he, though. And I'm planning on marketing. He's going to get the first action. He's not in a great position to activate the, whatever. The weekly market. He's not in a good position to activate that, so I'm not too worried. Because he's got to move down 4 times. The wood factory... So So do I buy some of these buildings, or do I just activate something? What else is coming up? Fish factory belongs to him. He's not in a great place to smokehouse right now, but he could. He would really be looking to fish market plus smokehouse, but you need money for that. I think it's okay for me to just build one of these things. I want to buy the dock next turn, which I will be able to do. These are all kind of irrelevant, so it's mostly just spend minimal resources to get victory points. So I think I'm just going to buy the wood trader rather than activate something here. Okay. 203 to 195. This is tight. This would be a very fun game to play with people, you know? Lots of back and forth, trying to figure out what someone's plan is. Do you block or do you just go for maximum personal points? I don't know. All right, he does get the start. That's a huge advantage. He's purchasing the brick factory, which is fine. Now, the port is not going to be worth a lot of points, but I've got to block him because I think he's got a bunch of these. I think I've got one. I have what, the grain one? In theory, these things aren't supposed to move. You just put them aside. So I've got the grain silo, yes. He's got the fish one, which has moved to here, yeah? Yeah. So, and then the wood factory is still here. Ooh, okay, he can't buy the wood factory, good. So if I weekly market, I might be able to buy the dock followed by the wood factory in some combination. I like it. Now, the downside is this is going to eat a shit ton of my grain, which is currently worth a bunch of victory points. But that's okay. I'm going to earn more victory points from doing this because coins are worth... Because I'm going to be spending 3 grain per coin, so I'm gaining victory points, but I think it's going to result in quite a bit more in general. And if I can do, I don't know, some sort of baking or something, I might be able to get a bunch of grain back very easily. I'll have to take a look at that. So he's going to shipping line for 9 coins, which is pretty good. That gives him enough coins to buy the dock, which means I have to buy the dock now. And then I'll follow that up with the wood factory, because at the very least it's going to be worth 10 victory points from owning the dock for the anchor, and then maybe I can get some extra wood or something too. He stole the farm away from me. Not that it was a very big activation. Now, he doesn't have the wood for the wood factory right now. The question is, do I buy it now, or do I buy it in the next round? So I could use the pier to give myself 6 wheat. The church square would give me 4 wheat plus a coin, plus some fish, although the fish doesn't help me. All right, so this would be earning me 6 victory points because of my my grain silo. This would earn me 4 victory points. Anything that gives me a bunch of wood, assuming I get the wood factory next turn, is worth victory points. This would give me 4 extra. The sawmill, we're not going to be in a good position to activate the sawmill, so it's moot. So I think the thing to do, that doesn't help that much. Business office isn't worth. I think the thing to do is to activate the pier and use all of the activations to buy grain. That's worth 6 victory points, and next turn I will purchase the wood factory. Also, by taking the pier, it might shut down some things that he wanted to do. So we're going to activate this, and it was going to be all wood or all grain. Doesn't actually matter, right? Because either way, I'm going to get the bonus victory points. Yeah, so I don't know. I'll just buy wood, because what the hell. Okay. So he's going to activate the craftsman yard to move some things up, getting some extra resources. Fair enough. And I will purchase the wood factory, which is going to worth, this is a 19 victory point move. Actually, no, 16, because I'm going to spend some wood. So 6 from the remaining wood in my stockpile from the wood factory's ability, followed by 10 points because I own the port. And that is it for the game. Pascal's going to take his last turn. How many victory points is he going to earn on his last turn? Insufficient. That is it. 227 to 213. What's happening now is it is quote-unquote sort of selling all the buildings for full value, but we've already got the points calculation over here. So we can just fast forward and we'll see what we've got. So the total score, I had 11 francs left in my hand, so that was worth 11 points. I got 8 points because of my buildings that give me points based on resources. So I didn't get a lot from those. Compared to his 18 that he had there. But I had the anchor bonus because I had the port. I had 2 of those types of buildings, so that was 20 points over there. Plus my properties were worth 188. The building I used the most is the weekly market. I used it, what, twice? 3 times? I'm not sure. The thing he used the most is the building firm, and that is that game. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm actually going to get Briarstone down here later on to play a game with me of this. I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Very, very exciting. Looking forward to it. I enjoyed it. Again, this game's available on Steam. It's also available in real life. Note, again, reminder, this is not Le Havre. This is Le Havre Inland Port. Le Havre is a, I think, 2 to 7 player. No, sorry, 1 to 5 player game. Oh, you can play that solo. That's interesting. It's a 1 to 5 player worker placement game, Le Havre. Le Havre Inland Port is a 2-player game. Both exist as real-life board games, and I think you can get this on mobile and stuff too, as well as desktop over here. So thanks for watching. See you next time.